in the coming years. So thank you so much for coming, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I didn't know so much about you, or I still don't know so much. I looked up a little bit. I saw that you have lots of different nationalities. I saw some of you in industry or the secondments in industry. So, and you're at the stage where you soon will finish your PhD. And I just thought okay, you're thinking now the next steps. What is it that we can offer you, which could be useful for this next hours? And please feel free to interrupt me at any time. And if you think you know it all, then just tell me to speed up. I'm happy to have a bit of a dialogue. Just to give you an idea why I'm here. So I am a research advisor at EU Grant Access, and this is a shared office from the ETH of Zurich and the University of Zurich. We deal with any type of international funding, third-party funding. It's mainly the focus is in the European program, but we also have US program, etc., etc. For us, it's really we try to help the researchers to first inform what we're doing here, then help them to develop ideas, support first proposal submission, but also once the proposal is granted, we help with legals. It's the whole life cycle of a grant we are there to support. And why am I talking about this here? Almost every university or research institution has such a grant office. And I warmly recommend, if you do submit a grant, get in touch with them and profit from their help or their knowledge, because it can really be beneficial for you. So it's what I want to talk about is about European funding. And there we want to differentiate between funding for people and funding for projects. And what is usually is at the start of your career, where you are now, the next steps, probably you will have to fund yourself. So you need to find fellowships that you have money that pays your salaries and you can do research. As you progress, then it will be much more of a mix where you will fund yourself, but you will also get funding for the equipment. And obviously at the later stage, your salary is no longer an issue, but you need to fund projects, etc. And we focus on the first two here. We talk about the Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowship, and we talk about the ERC starting grant. And these are the two tools which will be relevant for you in the near future. So I already said, first I will give you a bit of a frame about Horizon Europe in general. Then we talk about these funding schemes that I just said, and we have time for questions in between or afterwards, whenever. So the Horizon Europe is the latest framework program. It's a framework program that runs for 7 years. We are now in the second year. It's the 9th framework program that European Union has. And it's the biggest. It's by far the most generous one. If you see, it's 95 billion is budgeted for Horizon Europe. So there's a lot of money in for researchers like yourself. Then the program is built on 3 pillars. I will, yeah. Oh, it's not.
Recording in progress.
Can you stop the share? So the issue is share the screen. You need to share the whole thing.
Yeah, right. That's true.
No.
Excellent. After 2 years of COVID, I should know that.
Can you see it online?
We are seeing the master view.
You're seeing the master one. Which one do you see now?
And now it looks good.
And then do you see it changing? Wait. Can you change it? You see?
Yes. All good.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm so Okay, so the program is built on 3 pillars, and we'll just look into different pillars a bit more in detail. And the big goal of Horizon Europe is really to tackle climate change, to help the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal to reach, and to boost the competitiveness of the European Union, especially for innovation. So let's look at these 3 pillars. So the first one has the title Excellent Science, and this is where we are going to focus afterwards most on. I'll just now give you an overview about the second and third one. The second one that is structured in clusters, and the second pillar, these are all collaborative projects. So there it's very clearly defined by the European Commission what they want. For example, let's take energy. They're like batteries, the big topic. They base calls around like battery. They will have specific goals, what they want to solve. The European Commission tells like how big the consortium should approximately. They say how much money there is available, and you have to really just go and fulfill the criteria that they want. So this is very top down, and this is with these 6 clusters, and with these 6 clusters you have lots of different topics. They open on an annual or biannual basis. You can go and look there. So I would say this is like somewhere where you could attach, but it's probably not something where right now at this stage of the career you would be the lead PI, principal investigators, to join such a consortium. And then the third pillar is really like about innovation. So the European Union realized, in comparison especially to the US, like the innovations, Europe is very good in doing basic research, and to actually monetize it and bring it to the market, it's like a bit of a gap. So they focus quite a lot on this third pillar, where they really want to fund like ideas which come to life and go into economy then. At the bottom, we have the widening participation. This is where like it's the aim or the effort to like maybe weaker economies in Europe to like, or weaker science in Europe to like boost them. So it's a lot for special countries which are listed. It's clear calls, but it's often also like stronger research organizations team up with weaker ones, and they try to mutually benefit from each other. This is the widening participation. So this is very roughly about the pillars. So what is new? I mean, I suppose you don't really know what happened before, but I still like want to see that you understand what is the highlight is this European Innovation Council. As I already said, they want to really like manage this breakthrough research, that this can be scaled up, and when often investors, it's too, the European Union wants to be there and help this research to come to the next level. Then the missions, these are very clear missions. One mission, for example, is cancer. So this is where it's focused around something new. And then what is relevant for you for sure is the open science policy. They had in Horizon 2020, the previous program, it was often not compulsory, it was voluntary, but now they made it like it's mandatory. You have to have open access publication, and you have to follow the open science principles. To go on and have a bit of a look for this 95 million, what is funded. So we look at the projects, and you see, like, as I've said, we talk about the Marie Curie Action and the European Research Council. So there's like a big chunk of projects lie actually there. So this is a big focus of the European Commission. When you look then on the funding, then it looks a little bit different. It's not, I mean, they have most in the second pillar, but it's only very minimal. It's 37.1% versus 36.8% for the pillar 1. So still like more than a third goes into pillar 1 or pillar 2, and the pillar 3 is with 21%, a little bit less funded. Well, so now we have the frame on fifth, but now we need to look who can participate. So it's like all the member states, all the host institution in the member states of the European Union, they're automatically in this program, and they can fully participate. As you can see, like the UK is red because the UK left the European Union. So at the moment, they're not eligible for funding from the European Commission. Neither is Switzerland. Additionally to all these, then there is also associated countries. This country, for each framework program, they have to be associated again. That starts from the day the program starts and like step by step. Right now we have 15 countries, there will be more, but the European Union is now with each country setting agreements in place. Again, like, I mean, Norway is there, they're also not in the European Union, but again, the UK and Switzerland is not there because the European Union uses the political force a bit, unfortunately, on the back of the researchers. But it's still the biggest aim goal of both these countries, and they're very big players in the European funding landscape, so they both aim to get association again. But right now, the status what it is, you see everything dark blue plus the 15 countries, they can participate without restriction, and UK and Switzerland. So we already go now into the details where it gets interesting or relevant for you. Election, which is really probably the first step for you, and then the European Research Council is maybe that comes afterwards, but it's good to keep in mind already. So the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action has several programs, like you all are in the ITN, you are doing the doctoral degree with this network. You're very familiar with that. I don't need to talk more about that. And I start at the bottom, the Marie Curie citizens, that is like, they fund special events like a researcher's night or so on. This is like more project-based. The co-funding is often like regions which want to achieve something together. Staff exchange is obvious, like staff gets exchanged. And then actually the biggest program is then the postdoctoral fellowship, which is what we focus on. So I'm going now a bit more in detail, and I'm telling you now what is behind it. So like, it's the funding is really like for yourself. So it covers your salary, it covers the social security contribution. There is like, if you have family, there is a little family allowance, and there is a bit of money for on a monthly base for research, and also conferences are covered. But it's a fixed amount. You don't need to budget anything. It's a lump sum that you will be given, or the host institution will be given, and it covers for your salary. The projects are either 12 to 24 months or 24 to 36, and I just tell you in a moment what the difference is. And the aim is really to fill the gap in the CV, because this is where like you are at the start of your career development, and it is like the next step to become an independent researcher, group leader, whatever. To quickly explain the idea of how the Marie Curie Action sees it, is that they say they want to like attract and retain research talents in Europe. They want to promote sustainable career development. They want to ensure excellence and innovation, and also like give training in these areas. It's a bottom up, which means like the researchers are free to decide, not like I told you in the second pillar, but like researchers are free to decide on the research topic. And mobility is very, very important, because you can only be a well-networked researcher if you have mobility. And I mean, all of you know that, otherwise you wouldn't sit here today. This is part of the Marie Curie program. And why do we think it's attractive to participate? Because it's definitely a very attractive funding scheme. It's competitive, like you compete with people from all around Europe, and you can build your network again. And I think Marie Curie has said it very nicely: you cannot help to build a better world without improving the individuals. And this is kind of the spirit where the whole program goes. So there are two different types, as I already briefly mentioned, and I explained the difference. There is the postdoctoral fellowship European destination, and that is open to anyone from any part in the world, like wherever, can come to a European host institution and do a postdoctoral fellowship there. It's you need to have a PhD at the time of deadline when you apply. maximum 8 years after the PhD, and the mobility rule is important. So you can't, if you did your PhD in Denmark, you can't continue staying there. So you have this rule which says like you can be maximum 12 months in the country that you want to apply with. So it's really, it forces people to move around. Then the next fellowship is the global destination. That is longer, that is 24 to 36 years. Criteria the same, PhD at the time of deadline, maximum 8 years after PhD. But the difference here is that the people who apply, they have to be nationals from the European Union or member state or associated countries, or they have to be long-term residents in one of these countries. And they go out to the world, anywhere outside European Union, and gain experience there, and they come back. So they have an outgoing phase and an incoming phase. Typically, the outgoing phase is about 2 years, and the incoming phase is then 1 year. But already at the time of submission, you need to have a host in Europe, and you have to have a host outside Europe. And for this, for example, right now, a host outside Europe could be, obviously, the US or so, but it could be the UK and it could be Switzerland at this moment. So again, here it's like, this is the, you cannot have been abroad for longer than 12 months. That's the rule. Again. Yeah, it's a good question. It's like, usually I think it's 8 years, but like you get the status from the individual country. So I think if you are not, don't have a annual, yeah, exactly, you need an official status. Yeah.
It was 12 months before the application, before the deadline.
At the time of deadline. Yeah, yeah. So it's the deadline is in September, exactly. It's yeah, it's like, but you know, like maybe not actually. Maybe you can find like a host. You can start there, like work there for a couple of months, and then prepare a proposal, which then is quite solid because you already know what to expect in this host institution. So
for instance, my case, I will start, I think it was in London in January. So for me, the global destination one would be the one I could apply.
Exactly, unless the UK is by that time then associated, then you could apply for the European. Yeah. Then it's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, if you, yeah. You are going, that would be the UK, and then you have to have a returning host, which needs to be somewhere in Europe. Good. So I just like, I mean, I don't want to like go too much in detail because this would go beyond this time here, but I just thought like a couple of tips which are just generally very useful. It's like start early, and I think it's good that you now ask this question because I think you have to actually now start reading the program and familiarize yourself with it. It takes time to really understand the idea behind it. As I said, like familiarize yourself, read the guide for applicants. And then the host institution is really important. So like choose the host institution wisely, because I'll show you here. It's like the Marie Curie is not just about a project. I want project funding. It's very, very different. It has like 3 pillars. It has like you and yourself and your career. It has your science, and it has your host institution. So what they want that you reflect, where am I? What skills do I have? And where do I lack skills? So how can I gain these skills? That can be like skills like a certain technique that lacks, but it can also be like leadership experience, etc., etc. So evaluate the gap you have and see how you can fill that gap in a specific host institution. At the same time, reflect what strength do I have, what like can I bring to the host institution. It's always like a two-way. And then it's a science the same. It's like, why is that project right to do at this specific host institution A and not at host institution B? Like all this needs to work together. So it's really a story. Marie Curie wants to have a story. They want to see that it's like a dynamic project. And I mean, the project itself, of course, it's important, but it's not as much in the focus as most people think. It is really, they want that you develop your career and you build up relationship with the institutions, etc. So that's why it's worth looking what institution would be the right one for you. Then, as I said, tell a story. It needs to be a nice proposal which looks at all these aspects. And then, like, what people often forget is like, just pay attention to all sections. People tend to just write the proposal methodology, etc. I just quickly show you an example. The first part is the administrative part. And there, of course, the abstract is what catches people, the evaluators' attention. There you grab them or you lose them. Then there is keywords, and these keywords are, you select keywords and the evaluators select keywords, and this is how the match is made, who evaluates your proposal. If you like work in the automation industry and you write automation, then it's like so broad. So it's like probably very difficult to really get the right evaluator. But if you're too specific, then you will not find anyone with the matching keyword either. So you really, it's worth considering about these keywords, because if you put so much effort in, it would be a pity if last moment, like you just quickly write something and because of that you get the wrong evaluator and you don't get past it. You need to have information on your organization, on the host institution. So also there, invest enough time, start early and put time in this administrative form. You need to like fill in ethics and security tables. You need, if you work with personal data or animal experience, you don't need to have all the permissions there, but you need to show that you're confident, you know how to gain all the right steps and permissions and how to follow procedures. So this is like why it's worth investing in all parts enough time. Then here the second part is B2, that's 10 pages, and you see it structured in excellence, impact, and implementation. And most people just like naturally like, okay, I'm going to describe how I implement the project. I'm going to describe how I do the experiments, etc. It's like, this is the weight. It's 50, 30, 20. And this is also how you should structure it. These 10 pages, you should have 5 pages on excellence, 3 pages on impact, and 2 pages on implementation. So this is really where the focus lies. And this is quite tricky. And as I said, you need to be a good storyteller to fulfill this. Sorry? Excellence means, like, I actually prepared because I thought this question could come. Ooh, I stopped sharing screen. This one here. Screen. Okay. Yeah, it's at the end here. I added it here. Just here, you see the excellence is described as the quality of the project and innovation objectives, the soundness of the proposed methodology, the quality of the supervision, training, and the two-way transfer of knowledge between the researcher and the host institution. It's what I described in this triangle before. So this is the excellence. Maybe we can also quickly look at the impact. It's the credibility of the measures to enhance the career perspective. It's the employability of the early stage researcher and the contribution to his skills. So it's really have to see how do you benefit? How are you a different person at the end of your fellowship? So this is where like they want to hear that much more than, and you see, of course, I mean, the implementation is the quality, the effectiveness, and etc. etc. Good. Does that answer your question? Good. Oops, sorry, I go like that. And then is where we now tell the story, pay attention, all the sections. Yeah, involve your supervisor. And this is definitely something which I can 100% guarantee. I've seen it with my own eyes. People who work closely with their supervisor are a lot more successful. So it's not just one show, but like ask the supervisor, what can I bring you? What can you bring me, supervisor? They're usually the peer, more experienced, and this is definitely, and we tell all our supervisors, please, if you want the person, then work with the person. So that's something, and by involving, I don't mean that like the supervisor should write your proposal, but have an exchange and see how you can use synergy or how you can fill gaps. And then, as I said already, get help from the grants office. National contact points are program experts. They do proposal screening and also share the proposal with colleagues. They don't have to be from your field. Sometimes it helps if they're like slightly outside your field, because maybe your evaluator is not totally from your field. And then one advice that I just give for any sort of proposal, like submit early, and you can always resubmit. It's only the latest version that will be taken into consideration. So the worst thing that can happen is that like 5 minutes before the deadline you want to submit and you have a technical problem. So that's to avoid. So this is how much I go in detail on the proposal. I think at this moment you don't need to know more, but like then some facts is like, so the calls open in spring, the deadline is in September, mid-September. You get notified in like February, March, and the earliest you can start is April. So it takes a good like 6 to 8 months from proposal submission to actual start. The success rate is 10 to 16%. That might sound very low. I mean, it is low, it's extremely competitive, but I also have to say, like, if you really have a thorough project and you have worked on it and invest enough time, then I would say automatically your success rate goes up already. It's we have seen that people last moment, like the day before submission, contact us and submit something. And these are also all the proposals which are in this number, so it shouldn't put you off, but it is competitive. There is a resubmissions restriction. If you have below 70%, you cannot apply in the following year. So that's something, that's exactly to avoid what I just said, people submitting half-finished projects, and the amount that Marie Curie gets a proposal is very high. So that's why they have now introduced this new rule about 70%, then you have to pause for a year. If you have higher than 85%, but your proposal still cannot be funded, then you get a seal of excellence. And in many countries, the seal of excellence is worth a lot because the national funding agency is then willing to say, okay, I'll fund a postdoctoral position for you. We show you have proven that like you're capable, you have like received that seal from a very prestigious program. So definitely it's always worth aiming for at least a seal of excellence. And it's like, I mean, it's tough the way they evaluate. It's like they don't look at the proposal and say it's good. They start with 100% and they deduct. And they're looking for, you know, like even size of writing is wrong and then you're out because they have to limit the proposals. And it can be that you reach 90% and you're still not funded. So they start from the top and they fund until as much as their money their pot has. So it's competitive, but it's definitely worth trying it. It's a good opportunity. That's it for the first part for Marie Curie. Do you have more questions here? Yes.
So you said that the seal of excellence you get around 85%, but you also mentioned that it might be the case that you have 90% and you should get it rejected. So my question is, what is more or less the average that gets accepted?
I think above 92% is usually you get funded. And they have different panels. It depends a bit. Some are even higher, or 94, but some maybe 89 or so you get funded. So and it always depends, right? It's never the same, but this is approximately what you can expect.
Was stress on mobility about this program, and what's like the one that we experienced during our PhD, so periods that are supposed to go in another institution, or you are?
No, it's just you go there. You can always do secondments, but it's, I mean, again, if it's credible, then it's good. Don't add a secondment just for the sake of it. But definitely, if you can have show nicely why that's necessary, it adds to the quality of your book.
Another question is, when writing the proposal, what's your take on being too visionary or more? I mean, because for instance, many programs seems to be very, very visionary just for the sake of attractive funds, but it's more for like, I think, yes.
Exactly.
Same applies for.
I mean, you need to go quite far in order to get funded because you need to be different from the others, but not just for the sake of it. So I would say don't go as far as with an ERC, but show that you can think out of the box, that it's not just incremental research that you want to do. Good. Any more? Yes. Yes, Turkey, yes. Turkey is an associated country, so you can, like from Turkey, you can unlimited participate in all the program, and it's considered as for the European fellowship, it's considered as a member state or associated country. So you can do a global fellowship, for example. Otherwise, we can always go back. So I just continue now, and with the ERC, the European Research Council, that was the second program that I mentioned in the bottom up. So these are both bottom up, where like you're free to choose. And right now, it's maybe a little bit early for you since you just finished your PhD. But I think especially like if you want to plan to apply starting grant, then it's already good. You can even mention that in the Marie Curie fellowship, this is the goal. You want to go there, and in order to go there, we need to reach the following things. So it's always good if this is that you already have that in mind. Yeah, maybe just quickly, like this is, it's all on the European Research Council. It's only excellence that counts. It's excellence of the project and excellence of the researcher, but it would be a bit unfair to have a person who was like two years after PhD and someone has been in research for 30 years. That's why they group it in starting, consolidated, advanced. It's only really the research age that is different, but the criteria itself that you're compared like with peers, but like the evaluation criteria are the same. A proof of concept is just something that follows after one of the above grants, and the synergy grant is something that you can do between 2 and 4 PIs together. It's a very big project, up to 10 million, and there you need to be like interdisciplinary and even more high risk, high gain, more crazy than the ERC starting, consolidated, advanced grant. Yeah, but we focus now on the starting grant. So you can get up to 1.5 million. So this includes 25% overhead. That's about 1.2 million is really for you to use. You can budget your own salary. Usually at this stage, you don't budget 100% of the salary because probably you have to do teaching, etc. And this cannot be charged to the ERC, but you can up to 80% of your salary you can cover. Then it's for equipment, it's for a couple of postdocs, PhD. It's really like to run a big project on your own. If you're really at the start and you set up a new lab, you might need major equipment. You can even get extra funding up to 1 million, but this is not necessarily granted. You can get the project granted without the extra funding, but this is possible. The project lasts 5 years, and it really enables talented early career scientists to establish their own group, to establish their own research field and find their field. So yeah, it's open starting at between 2 and 7 years after the PhD. You can do it in a public or a private research organization. Again, it's the member states or the associated countries we can benefit from it. It's a mono-beneficiary scheme, so it's like tied to the PI, to the principal investigator, not to the host institution, but to the PI. And the time commitment is minimum 50% that you have to work on the ERC, and you have to spend minimum 50% of your time in a member state or associated country.
And it doesn't have the mobility rule, right?
No, there's no mobility rule here. Oops.
required for you to be European or associate?
No, it's just that the host institution needs to be a European or associated country host institution. Am I doing this? This one here? Or this one? Right.
What is this period? It's minimum.
Minimum 2 years, yes. And this better is not. Okay, you can check, yes. Good, okay, thanks. Good. It's bottom-up approach, as I already said, and you have like 3 different domains. You have like physical science and engineering, life science and social science and humanities. And within this, you have like different panels, which then you choose which panel should evaluate your proposal. Just the evaluation criteria, you don't need to read this text. It's just to demonstrate that this proposal has exactly 2 criteria. It's the project itself needs to be excellent and the PI needs to be excellent. And that's all that counts. So like it needs the proposal, as we briefly touched, the proposal needs to be high risk, high gain. It needs to be like out of the box thinking. It needs to be like have a new approach. You need to show why this research is relevant, not just like for your group, but like on a wider scale, like European or global level. Why is that project important? And at the same time, like you as the PI, you need to convince these people. 1.5 million is a lot of money. You need to convince them that you can. Sorry, that's my phone. You need to convince them that they can trust you with this amount of money, that you're capable of pursuing such a project, and that you can lead a team of people, etc., etc. So there, it's yeah, you have to really sell yourself. Then quickly to have a look again at the proposal structure. I'm getting less into the details, but like again, it has a part A, which we touched on Marie Curie. Then the part B is like a synopsis 5-page. And like the proposal is a 2-stage evaluation. The first stage, it's only the synopsis, the 5 pages, which are looked at. They're looked at by experts from your field, but maybe not the total experts. So this is kind of, you need to be a bit of a journalist. You need to sell the project. It needs to attract attention so that it's kept for the second stage. And the second stage is then 13 to 14 pages. And there you need to go in detail, and there you can assume that someone who's totally in your field will read this proposal. You also need a host support letter. That means that at the time of submission, the host institution commits that they will host you for the whole time of the grant. So just that's often is like you have to see, is the employment possible, is like visa, work permit, like lots of little things. So again, it's worth like looking into that early enough. I can just say the same, familiarize yourself with the contact, look for the host institutions if they can really host you. The timing needs to be right, because you need to have at least 1 publication independent from your PhD supervisor. And also, there, I'll see that in a moment, but like if you submit too early and you can be blocked up to 2 years. So really, like sometimes it's worth waiting another year because you have a publication pipeline which can be relevant for it. Then like talk to colleagues who have a successful ERC, then they can give you advice or read the proposal. And again, like submit early, and you can submit as many times. So for the timeline here, it's like this. I just took the timeline from the 2022 call. The deadline was in January. And you see it goes in the first step. In the second step is even an interview included. And you get like in December, the applicants are informed. So it takes almost a year until you really know that like you got the grant. If we come to the success rate, it's pretty similar. It's about 16% success rate, but again, it varies from country. Some have a higher, some have lower, but it shouldn't put you off. It's 16 is still better than no if you don't try go for it. This is what I briefly touched. It's you have restriction. If you get like a C in the first step, you're blocked for 2 years. If you have a B, you're blocked for 1 year, and if you have an A in the first step, you can resubmit immediately, but it's just worth thinking. And that's it already. So is the questions here clear? And then I just quickly say, like, now we only touched on this first pillar because I think it's most relevant, but I mean, you have other opportunities worth looking. And then also, like, don't forget the national schemes, and I've just chosen the Swiss, like the one we have here at ETH for illustration, but you see like on the level of postdoc, like it's quite densely populated. So I'm sure also in other countries, there are lots of options, and sometimes it's worth going like dual track, submit your fellowship on Marie Curie, but also try to submit in enough different funding. This is totally legal as long as you declare it, and you can't have double funding, but if you get them both, then you're lucky anyway, and you decide for one, and otherwise, like, hopefully one of them will be successful and enhance your career. That's it. Thanks a lot, and I wish you all the best.